I think it's like a misconception that you have to know everything to be in infosec. And I'm like, shoot, new stuff is changing every day. It's impossible to know everything.
That's true.
I think some companies don't really understand that because they don't have, I'll say they don't maybe not have like the right type of people in their environment to kind of explain them like what you're asking for, is not doable.
Yeah.
How is it being a cybersecurity consultant?
Yeah. Okay. So how do I answer that, man? So one, I like it. I like it a lot. One thing that I think that being a cybersecurity consultant does for you is that it allows you to see a lot of different environments, touch a lot of different technologies, and really try to, let me take a step back. One thing that they teach us a lot in undergrad for electrical engineering, or just engineering in general, is that they teach us that, hey, you all are they kind of big us up, like you all are the world's problem solvers. You build the bridges, you fix the systems, you do this, you create the technology. And I think that one thing I really like about cybersecurity consulting is that you really get to talk to the people who have the problems, the organizations and the customers who have the problems, and you get to use your subject matter expertise in order to solve those problems. You can get kind of creative in the way that you do it, and you can use industry best practices, but sometimes it's like brand new things that you have to develop solutions for, specifically in the area of cybersecurity. So that's one of the major things that I really like about consulting, is that you're solving the problems of the people with the problems. So I like it a lot.
Yeah, I've heard I know one of my friends, when he left from working with us, he went on to actually be a cybersecurity consultant.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, they just threw me in there to the wolves and I had to figure it out. But I think that's one of the best ways to learn, honestly, because it forces you to research. And that's one, I think too, like the same guy I'm talking about, my friend, shout out to Tavion, he made this TikTok the other day. It was like, don't let like the job descriptions, all that stuff fool y'all. It's like we Google just as much as anybody else. We just, we just good at it. And I have to agree. I mean, half the stuff you don't know. And I think it's like a misconception that you have to know everything to be in infosec. And I'm like, shoot, new stuff is changing every day. It's impossible to know everything.
That's true.
I think some companies don't really understand that because they don't have, I'll say they don't maybe not have like the right type of people in their environment to kind of explain them like what you're asking for, is not doable.
Yeah.
Or it's not even needed for this role.
Sometimes that is the answer to the question that we're given, is that I hear you, but you don't need that. You don't need that at all. So, that sometimes is the answer that you give to customers as a cybersecurity consultant, is that that's not necessary. This will satisfy your requirement, or this will solve your problem, rather than this big, huge, elaborate thing. So, yeah,
definitely. I mean, I remember during my time at Optiv, like our principal guy would have to push back on the client a lot. Like, I know you want this, but for one, this is how long it's possibly going to take to even integrate this, and two, it doesn't make sense for your environment. So some companies got used to the companies just doing stuff just because they ask, but it didn't make sense. So therefore they will have unrealistic expectations when they get a new provider, and like, nah, we're not doing that. One, you always got to tell them, hey, well, let's see what the contract says. See if we let's check our statement of work. See if we're providing that service to you guys. Nah, we can go renegotiate the rate. And that was like one of the first times that was when I did like a project in grad school where I first time had to create a statement of work. But the fact that I started being privy to those conversations, made me aware of like how important the stuff that I learned actually translated to my actual career field. So
absolutely. That's another thing that people don't really think about a lot of times when they think cybersecurity, is that cybersecurity is a business enabler, right? It's something that helps businesses be able to continue to do whatever the business does. So like those SILs, like those statement of works, right? those statement of works, and even something that I do at my level as a cybersecurity manager is that I create statement of works for customers, or what you call like RFPs, requests for proposals, or requests or RFIs, requests for information. And that kind of even broadens my capabilities and skill set because I'm dealing with financials, right? So there's times where I might have to manage resources for a program or a project for a customer where I'm looking at people and I'm like, okay, so to see how many hours you're putting towards that, I have to be able to anticipate how many more hours are left and what that really looks like for the budget that is aligned with the SAL, right? Or there's times where customers might want something and it has to be priced out. It has to be said, hey, it's this many hours, it's this many weeks. This is what this type of services go for at an hourly rate. So, I think that that it also allows, as a cybersecurity consultant, it also allows me to incorporate some or grow my skill set in the form of the business and the knowledge or financials of cybersecurity. So it increases my knowledge in that area. And I didn't learn any of that in undergrad, right? Financial engineering, no, right. None of that. I didn't learn none of that. So.
Like I said, I learned like a lot of things like in grad school as far as undergrad.
Yeah.
My motto was just C's, get degrees. I mean, that was just my motto.
Right.
Because I'm like,
Yeah. Because a lot of that came in grad school for me too, right? So yeah, so that's where a lot of that stuff comes in. So
shoot, yeah. But it sounds like you're
uh-huh.
I was gonna say it sounds like you're a consultant, a project manager, technical writer. Mm-hmm. Really, I mean everything, man, a jack of all trades.
At times you got to be, but I think that there's other times where you really got to focus in on one at a time. So yeah. But it's fun overall, man. I'm just learning and growing, and a lot of times being one of the youngest guys in the room, I'm just soaking up, right? And I think that that's something that people underestimate that, right? If you're like one of the youngest folk there, like you got to soak up so much game from people who have been there, right? Listen. I think a lot of times people try to go so fast and so forward, just try to get to the bag without realizing, there's some requirements to be able to acquire that bag. So I think it's really important for people to jump in there. Yeah,
you definitely said something right there. Let me hit this one last time so people can hear it.
Man, these folks got their hit his shit.
Look,
yeah,
it's very important, and I did this almost at I haven't really been able to do it at this current role because the way its structure is. But this is more so for the viewers. Like I'm talking about when I started off, and I can go all the way back to when I first started help desk. I always glean like a lot of information from I want to say the person, but one person I would say with one or two people I feel like the most knowledgeable of everything. I study them, take my notes down, and by the time I asked them enough questions where I had already did my due diligence, my level always goes up past everybody else because I'm learning from the best.
Yep.
And so at every job, most of the time I found like one of the smartest people that pretty much is a subject matter expert. And that always helps me. One, because the two things. So this is what helped me in my last role. I was always looking at documentation. If I didn't have a question, I reached out to the principal guy who was like the everything for our client. And he left the company, ended up coming back, and they was thrilled to have him. But what happened was he saw me like, he was always willing to help me, but that also put me in good favor with like everybody else because he would say, oh, well, go talk to him. He knows how to do it, or he knows how to do this and that. And so that's another one of those things, like people are always looking for mentors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you have to actually show that, you want to learn and you're coming in to work. So you can kind of prove that value.